Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to talk about my new dehydrator, plus I'm going to be doing some comparisons between this and the Nescos that I've been using for, I don't even know how many years. It could be as many as 20 years now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Excalibur and even the Cabela's that I've looked into, even though I've never had any of those or used them. I'm going to throw out a few pointers you might want to look at when you're considering buying a new dehydrator, even if it's none of these four. I'm just going to bring up these four, do the comparisons, and then let you decide from there, because they all have their pluses and minuses depending on what's important to you. So let's start off by talking about the Cosori, because this is my newest one. It's my first time ever buying a cabinet style dehydrator, and it was recommended to me by one of my followers. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I've always loved my Nesco, and I've used it for a very long time, and I not only have one, but I have a total, well, I don't have a total of 4 anymore. I'm down to 3. Now, let me give you a little bit of history so you can understand. My very first one I purchased at an auction, and they had this brand new dehydrator come up for $30. And I thought, man, I'd really like to have that, $30. And at that time, that particular dehydrator was $60, and it was called Open Country. Well, Open Country, I've already forgot the name of the company. I'll put the name of it right here. It's Metal something or other. But anyway, they were first making the Open Country, and then they bought out Nesco, so they're the ones that make the Nesco dehydrators now. I've always liked the way I could stack trays, rotate things around, put more delicate things closer to the heat, like my herbs and stuff, or things like fruits, vegetables, or even meats I might put on the bottom if I'm dehydrating a whole bunch of stuff at one time. That first dehydrator I had only had 4 trays, and I decided I really wanted more trays so I could dehydrate more at a time. Looking at the cost of the trays, I figured it was just as cost effective. Though I did go ahead and buy more trays, I went ahead and bought another whole dehydrator, so not only could I have 2 dehydrators, I would also be getting all the trays with it as well, and some of the other extras that it came with. So it was actually worth it just to buy a second one to go with it. So as far as the price goes, if you're looking at investing in a dehydrator and you're wanting to be a little more frugal, going with a Nesco dehydrator, you're going to save a lot more money, because you can get a pretty decent dehydrator right now from the Nesco, from pricing from about $75 to $100. And typically you're going to get somewhere between 4 and 6 trays, and it will come with a couple other extras. They do make all these newer ones now where they have an adjustable heat setting, which is important when you're getting a dehydrator of any kind. You want to be able to adjust the heat to match whatever it is you're dehydrating, because you don't want to be dehydrating herbs at 125 degrees, and meat you want to go at least 125 degrees or up. So you've got to be able to vary the heat setting according to what you're dehydrating. So the reason I decided to go ahead and invest in another dehydrator is one of the main drawbacks to me all along about the Nesco has been that it's all made out of plastic. Of course, as you would expect over time, here is a tray from my original one that I've had for a long time. And you'll see it's got some broken pieces here. And it does have, I have a couple that are like this. It's broken right here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not broken all the way through. This tray is still usable. And since I never use the trays just like this anyway, having some broken pieces is not a big deal. Now, what I did with this to help prevent so much plastic exposure to my food is when I'm drying anything that's, you know, that's not super wet, it's not some kind of liquid like scrambled eggs or milk or pureed tomatoes, I made these little cloth, and the reason this is stained is just because I've been using it for dehydrating all kinds of things. I just took some recycled 100% cotton sheets and cut these little discs so I can place them over the rack like that, and then dehydrate those things. And that not only helps speed up the dehydrating process, it keeps any of the small bits. It much better than that mesh that you get to go with any of your dehydrators. Works far better than that, and because it's a thin cotton fabric, you get lots of airflow, and I noticed that using the fabric makes everything seem to dehydrate a little quicker. And so as such, I did the same thing with this new dehydrator, is I made some to fit the trays, some more cotton pieces of fabric for the very same thing. I'll be going into more detail about that in a minute. And the reason I decided to go with the silicone was to finally get away from those dumb plastic trays. Those little plastic trays, I hated using them anyway, but one of the things I found with one of them was that it got warped, and it ended up, when I put anything liquid on there, it would end up running out all over the counter. So I finally broke down and invested in some edged, that's important if you're looking at liquid items, edged silicone covers to go into my trays so I can do my liquids on here. I'm not getting, you know, silicone, it's got its own issues too, but it's a little safer than even food grade plastics, and it's going to hold it in. It doesn't stick. Like when I tried milk on it, the milk stuck really bad to the plastic until I greased it a little bit. Where I tried putting milk on one of the silicones and it didn't stick the way it did to the plastic. There was a little bit of residue left behind, but it was not a big deal. For the most part, it came right off, no problem. And that was on the one that I had for the Kasori, the rectangular shaped ones. Now let me talk about the Kasori. And again, why I purchased this was because I had a follower who had been emailing me, and she was saying that she's had the Nesco, the Excalibur, and the Kasori, and out of the three, the Kasori was her very favorite. She said it was more efficient. She never had to rotate her trays like you'd have to do with your Nesco. You do have to rotate the trays, or at least take the top trays off as the things are getting dry, because they're going to dry the quickest, because if your heat element's on the top, obviously the trays on the top are going to dry first. Whereas with a cabinet style like the Kasori, the Excalibur, and the Cabela's, you have your heat and your fan are at the back, so it's blowing across your food this way, whatever it is you're dehydrating. So it's going to be more efficient. You're going to get more for all of your trays. They're going to dehydrate pretty much equally. Now I've had some people say with their Excalibur, including the lady that was telling me about the Kasori, that with her Excalibur she still had to rotate her trays to get even dehydrating, but she didn't have to do that with her Kasori. And I found the same thing. At least the Kasori, I didn't have to do any rotating of the trays, and everything dried equally on no matter where it was in the dehydrator and what side of the rack it was on. So that was really nice. Now the number one selling point to me for this one, and again, the reason I got it, I didn't finish this, was because since I did lose a motor on one of my garage sale find Nescos, because I had told it for, like I said, I ended up finding two more at garage sales, one for $3 and one for $5, and I went ahead and got them just so I could have the backup trays and backup motors, even if I didn't want to run all four of them at a time. But I have run as many as 3 at a time, and I like having that option of doing that when I have a lot of stuff coming in and a lot of stuff to dehydrate. So anyway, I did want to get another backup dehydrator, and I figured why not try something different that I don't already have, and something that already comes with stainless steel trays instead of plastic, because this is number one what I was looking for. Now the trays themselves, pretty wide mesh. Not like the mesh I have to go with my off-grid dehydrator, which, by the way, little side note, I was going to say this at the beginning. If you're not wanting to invest in an electric dehydrator at all, I have a video I did on not only how I dry things off-grid during the winter time, because in the summer I'm running all these electric things off my solar power. But anyway, yes, I do have a setup for that is totally off-grid, but I also covered in that video different ways you can dehydrate both with electricity and without electricity for those who really can't afford or just don't want to invest in a dehydrator at all. It is really nice to have though. Like for us, we don't have a fire going during the summer, so electric dehydrator makes more sense, and that's when I'm dehydrating most things anyway. But of course, just like I said, I have, since this is a pretty wide mesh, I just put that cloth right over the trays. Now, at the time I'm shooting this video, I've only had this for about 2 weeks. So I haven't had a chance to do a whole lot of stuff, especially at this time of year when the things I'm dehydrating has slowed way down. But I did do some chanterelle mushrooms that we were blessed with. I think I filled up 4 or 5 trays. And here's a picture right here where I put the cotton cloth on there, and then I put the mushrooms on there, and they all dried equally no matter where they were in the dehydrator. And so I was very pleased with that. So yesterday what I did was I dehydrated up some more tomatoes, some of the last of my tomatoes coming in, and made tomato flakes. I did some on the Kasori on the silicone, and I did some on my Nesco on the silicone there. And set them at the same temperature, 115 degrees, and then let them run, and then compared them. And they dried at the same time. They took the same amount of time, but what you also have to understand, for the Nesco, I only had one tray in each, and obviously the one tray was going to be closest to the heat source on the Nesco. So if I had 2, 3, or 4 trays on here, the trays on the bottom wouldn't have dried as quickly as if I had 2, 3, or 4 trays in here. They would have all dried equally, where the ones in here, that if they were that were under the first tray, they would have taken a lot longer. I would have had to take the first tray off and then just let it keep running. So as far as that goes, this is going to be nicer, be in a cabinet style like this, whether it be the Cabela's, the Kasori, the Excalibur, or there's some other brands out there. But there's benefits to the Nesco, and why I will not give this up, and I will stick to this, and I'll be using both of these equally. Now, some of you may have noticed I'm standing in a different place than usual in this room. Usually I'm standing right over there, but for now I've plugged this in over here so I can keep working with it. We don't have a solar outlet here, so I'm having to run it on public power, but it doesn't matter because we're not getting much solar power right now anyway, because it's been very dark and stormy. So anyway, this was just a place I could put it for now. But I do, generally speaking, really like this. So far, very happy with this. Digital, that's one of the drawbacks, is I prefer something that's manual over digital. Though digital can be really nice, to me digital is just something else that can give out. But so far I'm happy with it. It's only been 2 weeks. But you set your time, like I've got my temperature automatically here. I can adjust my temperature. Then I click it again to adjust the time. And I believe this goes up to 165 degrees, which I don't think I would ever dry anything at that hot. But the nice thing about that is I can, without concern, because I have stainless steel in here. Whereas with the Nesco, sometimes if I go to 125 or above, that's when I'd start seeing a lot of my things get warped. I don't think I have one in here now, but even these things here, I have some where the edges here are warped, and so that tells me something there. That's why, one of the reasons why I stopped dehydrating anything above 115 degrees on the Nesco is because if it's warping the plastic like that, what is it doing to my food as well? How much of that plastic is getting into my food? So that was one of the drawbacks. And I also did eggs and compared the time and found that they dried just as quickly in both dehydrators. But what I like about the Nesco still over this is that when it comes to doing liquids, having a style like this where you have the stackable trays, it's just a lot nicer when you can have your everything ready to go, your tray, everything right where you want it. You pour your liquid on there, put the top on, turn it on, and walk away. The drawback with something like this is that you have to pull the tray out, fill it up, then put it in. So you're more likely to spill. Obviously, it's just a matter of being a little more careful. Just make sure nothing is in your way, everything's ready to go, so that you don't have to open the door and you can just slip it right in there. So let me talk a little bit about some other things that you may want to consider when you're talking about any of these dehydrators. The biggest disappointment on this when I got it in was as soon as I got the box in. And I didn't think to check this one thing when I went to buy this, and that is, it is made in China. But other than that, everything else about it I'm really happy with. When you're looking at the reviews online, compared to the Cabela's, the Nesco, and even the Excalibur, the Kasori has the highest review rating. It has a solid 5 stars, where your Nesco, your Excalibur, and your Cabela's are about 4.5, which is still really good. But that was one of the things that really impressed me, was the solid 5-star review. So let's talk about where these other things are made, but I'll also talk about the good and bad of the rest of them. So Cabela's is also made in China. The Nesco is made in the USA. The Excalibur is mostly made in the US, but a lot of the parts are sourced out of the country, and they are not very clear about where it's coming from. Where the Nesco tells you specifically they have a part that's made in China, Excalibur is very vague on where these other parts are made, which was a little disappointing that they weren't a little more upfront about it the way Nesco was. Now let's talk about price. So for this is 6 trays. Where the trays are smaller than your Excalibur, your standard Excalibur has a 14 by 14 inch tray. Kasori is about a 11 by 12. I don't remember exactly what it is. It's like 11 point something by 12 point something. So you do have a little less room that you're working with in comparison to the Excalibur. And I believe the Cabela's is about the same size. I don't remember if I actually found the measurements on the Cabela's. But for price, the Kasori was $170 with free shipping from Amazon. The Excalibur, the standard 9-tray Excalibur without the stainless steel trays, is going to be roughly $300. And then, as I said, your Nesco is going to be about $70. And your Cabela's, I think, is about $300 as well. And that one, I think, was 6-tray. That was for the 6-tray. Now, knowing that both the Kasori and the Cabela's are made in China, I would go for the Kasori definitely if I had to do it all over again, if I was going to just pick one of those two anyway. Now, let's talk about that Excalibur. So here's what I learned, is when I first was looking, trying to compare that, yes, you can get an Excalibur with the stainless steel trays. It's a 10-tray Excalibur, and the trays are 15 by 15. So it's a little bit bigger. You get one extra tray, but you're going to pay anywhere from $1,200 to $1,700 for that model. You would be better off if you're interested in the Excalibur and you're wanting the stainless steel trays, or you even already have one and you're wanting to change your trays out for stainless steel. They do offer them. It's for $100. This is actually a pretty good deal. $100, you can get 9 stainless steel trays that will fit in your Excalibur. That's going to be a lot cheaper to do that than to invest in the slightly bigger one with the stainless steel trays already in there. So you're paying $400 for a 9-tray, mostly American-made Excalibur with stainless steel trays. That's actually not too bad. In fact, for the price it would take for you to buy the bigger Excalibur with the 10 trays and slightly bigger trays, you could get 2 Excaliburs with the plastic trays and buy 2 sets of stainless steel racks to go with it. That's going to be $800. You're still going to save yourself a minimum of $400 doing it that way. So I would recommend going that way rather than going right to that biggest one with that already comes with the stainless steel trays. From now on, my Nescos are mostly going to be used for liquid items, whereas this is going to be used mostly for herbs and anything else I'm going to be dehydrating. But obviously, if I need more, and I don't have enough space in here and I've got a lot going, I just then, for my herbs, my fruits, my vegetables, zucchini is one of my favorite things to dehydrate. I just resort back to these things on my trays and I can just keep going. I can have 3 or 4 dehydrators going at one time if I really need to. So I did mention that I did sample doing the eggs in this, and they turned out really good. The eggs came off the silicone super easy. They dehydrated just as well as they did on the Nesco on the silicone trays. And then the other thing I did try in the Kasori was, I still have some calendula coming in, and I'm mostly letting the rest of the flowers go to seed for putting on our store, since I already have a lot dehydrated up. But just to have something else to try, I did go ahead and put some calendula flowers on the little cloth that I made in the Kasori. And again, I saw about the equal amount of time for dehydrating as far as that goes. But again, if I'd had several trays on the Nesco, only the top one would have been dry in the same amount of time as the Kasori, where the Kasori, all of them would have been dried at the same time, just like happened with the mushrooms when I did those. So as you can see, there's various decisions to be made. You're going to have to be looking at price. Again, the Nesco is going to be the cheapest. The Kasori is going to be the next least expensive. Then I would recommend, from just what I saw, if you're wanting to just go another step up and you're wanting to go more American made, go with the Excalibur, and then buy the stainless steel trays separately to go with that. Don't forget to read the reviews and just learn a little bit more about other people's experiences. You're going to have people that absolutely hate any one of these things and give it a 1 star. You're going to have people that are just over the moon about theirs. It's those ones that are kind of in between, the ones that have had them for a little while, where they're very honest and they're sharing the good and bad of all of the above. If you're wanting mostly American made and you're wanting to save money, Nesco. If you're wanting mostly American made and you don't mind putting in the investment, you can go with the Excalibur. Or if you don't mind where it's made and you're wanting a good quality dehydrator but you don't want to pay a whole lot of money, I say go with the Kasori, because I think for your money, I think you're going to do better with this. But that's my input. That's just my own comparisons, what I've done so far and the things that I've looked up. Now what I'm really wanting even more so is you're going to have all kinds of people out there that are watching this video that have experience not only with one of the 4 dehydrators I've mentioned, but with other ones that maybe we've never heard of, that I'm hoping will come in and share their experience down below. What did you buy? How did you like it? Did you compare it with other things? How well did it work for you? What was the cost? Where was it made? And would you do it again if you had it to do all over again? And please be honest and share with us the good and the bad, the things you like and dislike about it. Even if you absolutely love your dehydrator of whatever kind, most of us are going to have something, just like with these. There's things about this I like better than this, and vice versa. And then what I was looking at the Excalibur and the Cabela's, there's things I liked about those that maybe these don't have, just like the whole being made mostly in America thing. I would prefer over being made in China. So share with us all the different little things that you like and dislike, so that people can have a better gauge to know what's going to work best for them if they're going to make the investment. Because here's the thing, we want to do the best we can with the money we've got right now to invest in looking out for our future, for putting up our food, but we don't want to break the bank if we don't have to, but we also don't want to buy junk, and we also may want to be focusing more on keeping the money in our own country as best we can. Just remember, no matter what you buy when it comes to anything that's electric, there's always going to be parts in it that are outsourced from somewhere, and most likely it's from China. So read those comments below, weigh it all out, and just really think about the investment you want to make. And it's all going to be what's going to suit into you, your lifestyle, what you're dehydrating, and what kind of space you have as well. Oh yes, and I'll be putting links down below to this dehydrator, to the one that's closest to the one I have. They're making them different all the time. And also to the silicone trays that go to the Excalibur, I don't know if they make one for the Cabela's, the Nesco, and also to the Kasori. I'll be linking to those. I do highly recommend them. You can live without them, but I recommend them. I'm loving these silicone trays. And anyway, anything else I can link to down below, so you can go read the reviews, check it out for yourself. And if you want to purchase through that link, if it's an Amazon link, that does help support us. But you can also look at going directly to the company and buying from them if you'd rather not purchase through Amazon. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. And don't forget to check the links and the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.